My name is Agon Maliqi. I'm a civil society activist, policy analyst from Kosovo. I'm doing a lot of regional analysis on state of democracy in the region, disinformation. I've been working mostly through the NGO that I co-founded, Bunkar. And I'm also very much involved personally, individually, in the Kosovo-Serbia reconciliation process. So in the dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia. It has to be related to my formative years, being raised in, sort of context of, ethnic discrimination and then sort of, being a refugee, then have this NATO intervention that saved us on behalf of human rights and democracy. Having experienced, the benefit of someone else fighting for your rights, it has instilled with me a sense of kind of a public kind of duty to kind of, work on behalf of others and rights of others. You can see the benefit of that not all activism is fruitless, that not all public engagement, that you can get very, good things done. So, polarization was at one point a huge problem in our society, to the point where parliament was even dysfunctional because, the opposition was throwing tear gas, not letting parliament sessions be held. With a group of friends, we established a blog that was kind of trying to counter that climate, where we could agree to disagree on a lot of issues, but at least have an open debate and at least, talk common sense and not in this sort of populist manner. So, the idea captured the moment. So there was we managed to get, dozens of people to sign on board, to become our authors, then also work with youth. We do critical thinking programs for young people, teaching them about democracy, about what it means, about, rights-based issues, starting from gender rights, LGBTIQ rights, giving them civic education in the form of democracy. And that's sort of, and then we then also kind of evolved into a think tank. So it was an idea that has constantly evolved depending on the context, on how things change, a safe community for people who want to engage in discussions on ideas, on how to advance democracy, try to normalize the idea of disagreement as well, and trying to find common ground. The community we try to build is basically trying to look at people like us when we were 18, orient them or guide them or provide some mentoring and on how to engage, and provide some context. It's a bit of like a passing the baton. As we get a little bit older and, start to become less activists and more analysts and, people with families and with lives, at least to kind of build the next generation who kind of has that energy to push things forward. When you are trying to sort of build bridges between sides that see things very differently, whether on ethnic relations between Albanians and Serbs, or within my Albanian community, sort of this deep political polarization. When you're articulating these kind of ideas in the public sphere, it's really difficult because, these are abstract. These are, talking about democracy, about rights, especially if you're talking about the long run, if you're talking about, the need for consensus. It's really hard to explain these kind of positions when people are struggling to get people to look at the bigger picture, to understand why it's important to protect minority rights. There's always that whataboutism, we have a lot of poverty, we have a lot of this, why should we, focus on minorities? It's obviously a very steep and uphill battle. It can get very discouraging. You feel like you're talking to a wall a lot of the time. What you have to do is really understand that it's a long run battle and not really expect anything to change very fast. So the moment you do that, it becomes more bearable. True democracy needs time, needs to develop its own tradition, sort of consolidate its traditions, needs a lot of social buy-in, and needs needs a lot of mistakes to go through a lot of mistakes. I think also I don't view it as something that happens, or you wake up one morning and you're living in a democracy. In our part of the world, in most of Eastern Europe and especially the Balkans, we kind of adopted a lot of the practices, the laws and legislation without thinking about them too much. But those in the West were kind of the products of decades or centuries of strides, of struggles for right. And now I think our challenge is to kind of, go backwards a little bit. These things do not happen immediately. The instant gratification is usually not there. You don't see the causality of a lot of your work. And so that kind of may discourage you. Every once in a while, you get these moments where you feel that your work matters, and I think that's the kind of what gets you going.